Hello, people. Today I thought that we can get just a little bit of change of pace and talk about a very small maker that is Lacao or Rubric. If you're interested in my personal opinion on their product and their company, please make sure to watch until the end. I'll get a little bit chattier, but for those of you that are really just interested in the kind of like the product and how they're made, I will get right to the point. So Lacao is, or Rubric, so Lacao is their website branding and Rubric is their Etsy shop. And from what I understand, Lacao has been around for longer and Rubric just had their first year anniversary. So they are a Taiwanese family-owned business. The owner is Diamond Huan. He, I believe, makes all of these himself. And by family-owned, I literally just mean it's him and sometimes his lovely wife would help him kind of design the front pockets and things like that. But just in terms of the operation, I believe that it's literally just the two of them. They don't have any employee. And in terms of how these are made, I believe that Diamond is the one that makes all of them. They are currently in Chicago, I believe. Shipping time, so normally, or in the past, they have been shipped from Taiwan, which obviously takes longer than Chicago if you are located in the United States. Now, they do make to order product most of the time. They do have sometimes some ready to ship items, but that's not really their main focus. They have a lot of options if you go on their website. They have basically everything is customizable, from the leather you pick, the pocket configuration, what goes on the front pocket if you want something like this, the inside configuration, and some of their ready to ship items also have kind of like a more unique pocket configuration. And it's just overall very, very customizable if you like the made to order business model and you know what you want and you just want, something made to your specific liking. I feel like they have way more options on their website or Etsy store for customization than I would normally think of, honestly, which is really nice. And one of the things that they are kind of known for is this button closure. So what they do is there's a little piece of leather that they put together with a snap so it's removable, and then you can use it to close and open this piece of elastic on this button. So when you go and choose your item, you can choose what button you want, which I think is really cool. They have a really nice collection of different buttons, and this is just a really unique thing. If you see something like this on kind of YouTube or on the Buy Sell Trade groups or Facebook groups, it's from Lacao. Is kind of like their signature. Obviously, if you ask for it, they could do the elastic closure like they did with this B6 folio right here. So if this is not your jam, you can totally get something different. Like I said, everything is basically made to order and highly customizable. So in terms of what they sell traveler's notebooks, And basically what happens is you pick a piece of leather for the main body, and you can add traveler's notebook elastics, you can add folio pockets, you can add whatever you can think of. And so obviously, traveler's notebooks, folios, they make pen cases and some other small leather goods if you go check out their website. But they do not make any larger leather items, and they do not make any ring binders as far as I know. However, one thing to know is if you like the style but you like it in rings, I believe that you could really just ask for some rivets or some holes on the spine, and you can add some rings to this, just screw them on pretty easily. So that's what they sell and kind of who they are. And now I'm just going to get straight into my rubric. So this time I pre-filled everything so that you wouldn't have to watch me struggle with my multicolor pens. In terms of how these are made, I believe that for some of these pockets, they have metal template that they use to cut, but because of how just unique each piece is, there are pieces that they can't cut with any mold. Like if you order this kind of half mountain front pockets, they can't cut this because each piece is unique with a metal mold. So for cutting, I put yes and no. They do have, for like some of these pockets, I believe like the secretarial pocket shape, they do have some kind of metal mold. If you go check out their YouTube channel, they do have one where they kind of show some of the behind scenes, but not all of them. For assembly, again, that has to be done by hand. There's no getting around that, so that's done by hand. And I put a yes here. For stitching, it's actually kind of interesting. If you notice, I put yes and no, and that's because some of their pieces are stitched with a machine and some of the pieces are stitched by hand. And this is what I mean. So for these ones, the stitching looks beautiful, but they are indeed stitched with a machine. And I wasn't entirely sure at first, so what I did is I took this pen loop and I just disassembled it. And like I said, the way to tell if they're stitched by hand or stitched by machine is if they have that locking stitching. If it's stitched by machine, it will have the locking stitching where the top thread locks with the bottom thread, but it never crosses over to the other side. And that's exactly what they had. So all of this stitching you see is stitched with a machine. However, on their website, they have a rainbow color option for the threads. And from what I understand, that thread is thicker and waxed. And they work with that thread by hand. Some of their more unique pieces, they also stitch by hand just because it makes more sense. It gives a more kind of like handmade look. And that's why it's I put yes and no. It's a mixture. It really depends on what you get, what kind of characteristics you have, or what kind of color thread you choose, etc. They are rainbow color thread that they have to stitch by hand is $10 more, which I think is a pretty good markup for how much more work has to go into hand stitching. So just keep that in mind. I put a question mark for hardware setting, mostly because the only hardware is really just this snap. I don't know if they have a machine to just set the snap, but again, it doesn't matter. For edge finishing and edge burnishing, I put question mark because I could not find any information on exactly how they're done. And from what I understand, it really, I mean, again, it really doesn't matter whether it's done by machine or hand. What matters more, again, is what products are used to do the edge finishing and burnishing. Quality control has to be done by hand. So overall, if you look at the scale again, it depends on what you order from them. You can get essentially 100% handmade product, or you can get some that are not, that are machine stitched, for example. And honestly, I think this is really smart because the stitching, even though they're machine stitched, they look really good with the style that they offer. And if they can cut cost and make it faster by machine stitching, I think it's actually a really smart idea. However, they do have the hand stitching option for some of their kind of colors and styles and whatnot. So if that's what you're into, you could get something like that, which I think is awesome. Now, let's talk about quality. So the leathers they use are full grain leather. They're full grain vegetable tanned leather. They are, I believe, leathers from South America. And South America, if you don't know, is essentially kind of one of those leather hubs. There are a lot of tanneries out there, and they do make some really great product. So all of these leathers are full grain, and they are made in South America, and they're vegetable tanned, which means slightly less environmental impact. In terms of leather grade, I gave them a B+, partly because, well, so a lot of these leathers are tumbled, so I can't really see how their natural kind of top looks. And some of the pieces, some of them you can see there are some kind of wrinkles, marks. But one good way to tell, not exactly from this piece, but for example from this piece, is the underside, which is just ever so slightly kind of fuzzy. And normally the fuzzier underside of the leather means that it's not as kind of perfect of a piece. It's probably closer to kind of like a belly piece, I'm not really sure, or it could just be a slightly fuzzier interior because of the manufacturing process of the leather. But either way, they are really high quality leather. They are absolutely wonderful. They're full grain leather. They will last you a real long time. Is it the highest quality full grain leather? Not necessarily, but then again, I think these leathers are really unique. You don't really see many other makers using this type of vegetable tanned leathers, and they do offer a lot of different colors. So overall, I think their leathers are great. It could be better, but it's great. When it comes to non-leather component, the only thing I can really think of is kind of like this button here. And I mean, I don't know much about those kinds of buttons. All I can say is that they feel really solid. They look really nice. I give it an A-. I don't know what else to say about them. The stitching is great. If you can just take a look at how beautiful the stitching is. The stitching is really well done. And again, this is a machine stitched piece, but they do also have hand stitching that I don't personally own, but from the pictures I've seen, they look great. And one thing is that because I couldn't even tell if this is machine stitched or not at first without disassembling it just to make sure. This is a great option for if you want completely handmade, kind of like a wild, rugged look, because even though it's machine stitched, it looks kind of hand stitched to me. So if that's what you are into, like this aesthetic, definitely check them out. I think this is a wonderful, wonderful stitching job, honestly. And okay, let's go over the thread. So, of course, I got to know more about the thread since I disassembled this pen loop. And let me just go on a tangent and just say that I was thinking about selling this cover because I do not use an A6 size for anything anymore. And now I took this apart, so if you want to see me disassembling more items, I can try to work that into my my filming somehow, but just leave a comment down below and see if it's helpful for me to find out more information by taking things apart. But anyway, so the thread that you use, even though it's machine stitched, it's really, really thick, really, really sturdy. I have seen with other makers that also do machine stitching, I've seen them kind of getting their threads like snagged at different points and whatnot, but not for them. The threads were kind of hard to take apart, and if you can just kind of like see that it burns in really well and it's overall thicker thread. Of course, I give them a minus because, again, waxed threads would withstand the elements better. But just in terms of machine stitching, I think these are great threads. Edge finishing, I gave them an A minus. You can kind of see that, you know, the edges are burnished pretty well, and if you look a little bit closely, they do have a slight shine to it. And so I don't know what they use as a burnishing agent, but if I were to just compare this with the Chic Sparrow edge burnishing, I would say that they probably used a burnishing agent that's not just water. And overall, if you like a smooth, slightly shiny burnished edge, they offer that. Like, this is it. So I say this is done pretty well. I gave it an A minus because at some points, like over here on the edge, it's just ever so slightly fuzzier. I don't know if it's something that you can kind of fix by going back over it again. Do I think if it makes a difference? Not really, but that's why I took off some points. Hardware, they don't really have much hardware. The only thing is basically these snaps. They feel pretty sturdy to me. I obviously do not know what they're made of, but if I were to take a guess, I would say that they are not the highest quality snaps you can get. This does not really feel like solid brass. But I mean, because this is not really designed for you to open and close like a snap closure, I said this does its job really well. So I give it a question mark. If I have to rate it, I give it a B+. So this is kind of what I give overall. Overall, really high quality, I'd say. And this is the handmade scale again, just to show you. Okay, so overall impression, really good quality, really good craftsmanship, and what you get depends on what you ask for, which is great for someone that likes made to order items. Their turnaround time is not too long, I'd say, for made to order items either. And with them currently being in Chicago, for the US buyers out there, it will be faster for you to get your items. They offer a mixture of hand stitched and machine stitched item, which I think is a really smart business model. And when you place an order, they give you a piece of kind of coaster or sample leather. Basically, the only thing is that they don't tell you the name of it. So you have to pretty much go on their website and look at the different leathers and guess which one this is, or you could just message them. They're really responsive. And with your order, you get a little card. Obviously, you get like replacement elastics and things like that, but you get a little card with a handwritten note from Diamond, the owner himself, and the one that makes these covers, which I think is a really lovely gesture and just overall makes you appreciate the shop and the craftsmanship, I think, just a little bit more because of that, which is really nice. And so overall, I like the shop. In terms of pricing, they are, I would say, on par with Chic Sparrow on kind of like the more expensive traveler's notebook side. And so I think that the quality of the item is expected given how much they cost. So they're not like with Moterm, because of the low cost, the quality stands out so much because that's not what you expect. But for the price they charge, I would say that this is expected. I expected them to make high quality products. And some of the options can be cheaper, obviously, if you choose a smaller size or if you choose less features to go on the inside or outside of the covers. And sometimes they do have sale for either 10 or 15% off or something like that. So follow their social media if that's what you're interested in. They do also have a Facebook group that I believe that Diamond runs himself, and he is pretty responsive in the Facebook group as well as on Instagram, Etsy, all of that stuff. So let's talk about customer service, because I did end up talking to Diamond a little bit more about this cover. So what happened is that I ordered one on Etsy for the B6 size, and I have a Stalogy. I'm not a chunky person, so I thought that, I can just order the B6 and then go with it. And what happened was that it was way too narrow. And so I contacted Diamond after I got it. I was like, this is not fitting. And even with this side being kind of like an open slip, it still wouldn't fit the B6 Stalogy. It just kind of barely fits a brand new half-year Stalogy. So if it chunks up a little bit more, it's not going to fit anymore. So I contacted Diamond and I asked him like what would fit, because I do love the way the cover looked. And Diamond basically told me that he would ask in his Facebook group for recommendations for the B6 size notebooks that will actually fit in his cover. And he did that. I joined the Facebook group because I wasn't in there before. And it turned out that people were kind of suggesting cutting things down. And that's when we realized that his sizing is just ever so slightly off, that normal B6 size notebooks wouldn't fit in his folio without some adjustments to the notebooks themselves. And he basically told me, wow, I didn't think that was the case. And he offered to have me send this back, and he would make me a different one that's wider so that it would actually fit a B6 size notebook. I said, sure, I can definitely do that. So I sent it back. And I think what he did is he took the front pocket off of the older one and then stitched it on to this newer one that fits Astrology perfectly. And he didn't charge, obviously, anything extra for it. He was very responsive during the whole thing. And it's really, really nice, because he could have easily said, hey, I have my measurements up on my website, so even though you would have to cut down your notebooks, you signed up for it. And I would have understood, because it is my fault to not really check or look into the measurements. He did have that on the website. But when he realized that, it's his sizing that's just ever so slightly off, he offered to really remake the whole thing to me, and at no cost, no extra charge. And I really, really appreciate it. And sometimes you can see his YouTube videos and see in the Facebook group about the new items they're making. It seems like he's so creative with the different kind of configurations and designs he has. And I think, to me, I wouldn't buy a lot of their covers just because of how expensive they are, and because of this look, this handmade rugged look. It's easily achievable by hand stitching, by myself. So I don't think I want that many covers from him personally. And also because of how expensive things are, I really have to think things through before I place an order. But I would recommend you checking out Lookout if you like made to order customizable items, if you like this aesthetic, or if you just feel like supporting I wouldn't even say a small business, I would say a craftsman, because Diamond makes all of these notebooks on his own, that really loves leather crafting. If you check out their YouTube channel, you check out their other social media platforms, it really does seem like he loves doing leather crafting. He loves coming up with new ideas. He kind of pours his soul into the pieces that he makes, which I really, really appreciate. It's the one thing that you can't get with a company that has a template for everything, and they have employees, or they outsource their production. After a certain point, you don't know who made your cover. There's nothing kind of like individual about the cover that you have versus what somebody else has, because it's all made from the same schematic. But it's not really the case for them. I would say that the only drawback is that their covers are a little bit on the more expensive side. But again, they're kind of on par with kind of like Foxy Fix or Chic Sparrow pricing or Sojourner pricing. So if you have the extra cash, you like made to order customizable items, and you kind of just want to support a craftsman that's making things because he really likes to, I think you should go check them out. And again, if you think about something that they don't offer yet, or making some kind of adjustment that they don't currently have, I believe that given how flexible they are, since each individual piece is made uniquely, and they do cut a lot of pieces, I believe, like this by hand, I would just encourage you to talk to the owner and see if it could be accommodated. Doesn't hurt to ask. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I do think the only thing I can think of that could improve it is obviously the backside of the leather, like if it could be refinished or something, I don't know. And also just the pricing, and that's why I would think twice before I personally order, because it's kind of on the expensive side. And I personally like if you take a look at this one, I like a smooth interior, the smoother flesh side. But overall, I appreciate the care Diamond puts into his covers. I appreciate the leathers that he uses. They feel really nice, they're really sturdy, and just overall really unique vegetable tanned leathers. And I hope you give them a chance, check them out if you have not heard of them before. Thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing, all of that good stuff. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.